If we look, Sean, at the current state of the industry, in addition to the kinds of things you've already mentioned, are there any other issues that you feel are important enough that we need to seriously consider them and, if possible, come up with particular solutions?
Probably two. One, and it's a bit of a hobby subject of mine, is the very poor uptake of technology in the construction industry. There's a lot of talk about it. There's the odd show project, but really in the last 15 years, there's been very little progress. I'll tell you a little story. 2004, I had a presentation from Arups. They were showing me how their computer model design could, you could do a design, not unlike Amy Park, the geodesic shells on Amy Park, so a very complex steel structure, how you could design it in the design shop and how those designs could be then reviewed by the client, all of that. They could be that same electronic file could be the tender package, that same electronic file could be the shop drawing package, that same electronic file could then be used by the steel manufacturer to cut to perfect accuracy every steel member needed. One file followed the whole project from inception through to construction. 3 years later, I was involved in the management of Amy Park, so we had exactly that scenario, and Arup were the designers. And do you think we managed to have that scenario, which is exactly what you would have had in the car industry? I mean, cars are basically made on the computer screen there, and there's a robot somewhere at the end of it doing exactly what you want to make that car and manufacture those pieces of equipment. No, at Amy Park, the file from Arups was stopped as a design file. Something else was tendered, something else went to the shop drawer, and the builder used something else again. And the reason is the way that contracts are written. No one wanted to take design responsibility for something that they weren't controlling all the way through, and it was impossible with the forms of contract we write to take one electronic file and for a group of people to collaboratively work on it all the way through. And we're probably the only industry in the world still acting like this, and it's regressive, and I think that's why Elon Musk thinks that we're dinosaurs, because we actually are. And somewhere down the road, that sort of thing has to change, because the technological evolution's not changing. The sort of geospatial technology that you can use to set out a building is just evolving. The use of drones, the use of, I've got videos of bridges being built over rivers by 3D printers. So that's a completely, and I've said to people, in 10 years' time, every construction site will have a 3D printer on site, and when they're short of any certain equipment, they'll just make it. Now, those are all enormous opportunities to move the industry forward, but at the moment it's moving at a glacial pace.
You mentioned two issues. What's
yeah,
the
probably
other?
The other one is the general behaviours in the industry. I think we've got some ways I'll call it a dinosaur industry, and I think a lot of the behavioural attitudes are those of dinosaurs as well. I think the industrial model forces a combative sort of behaviour from most participants, and it's often a pretty unpleasant place to be. And I think it's very interesting noticing millennials coming out of university. They don't want to work like this. When I joined the industry, I was basically just told to suck it up, because that's how it was, and this is your apprenticeship and your ordeal by fire, and if you're any good, you'll work your way through it. And if you're not, we'll see you later. So that's a pretty Darwinian model of bringing people into the industry. It's not a great model of attracting the best and the brightest into the industry. And I lecture at university and I speak to people there, and some of them are genuinely dumbfounded at the behaviours they're starting to encounter on a construction site. It's like they think that they're looking back into the past. And some of them, very smart people, choose to leave the industry, and that's a net cost to the industry. And somewhere down the road, I'd like to think that the behaviours that are still accepted and commonplace on the industry are viewed for what they are and are sort of stamped out, because I think they just hold the industry back.